welcome into the best division in football with your boys Authentic and the Beard. Damn, it feels good to say that. I've been saying welcome to the Giant Overreaction. Welcome to your Bleacher Report Giant stream. And today, with the NFL season getting ready to kick off, I know Giants Nation is in the building. We get to say welcome to the best division in football. And it's been a day full of football, y'all. I just got back from Maryland University shooting some video for their practices and whatnot. They're playing Michigan State on Saturday. It's going to be a vibe. I know the Beard is hyped for some college football, but more importantly, more hype for some NFL football tonight. We got the Ravens. We got the Chiefs. Commanders taking on the Bucs on Sunday. The Giants taking on the Vikings on Sunday. You got the Philadelphia Eagles on Friday in Brazil. Scared to step out in the streets. We got a bunch of stuff going on. And y'all Cowboys fans, I told y'all last week, man, y'all ain't America's team no more. We dead in that right now. But without further ado, let me bring in the strong side to the left side. My brother from another mother. Shout out to my Dukes one time in the building. And the Beard is here, y'all. The Beard is here, y'all. What's popping, my dog?
Listen, I feel I got chills right now. I got like goosebumps. My hairs are going up on my arms. It feels so good to be back. I'm super excited. It's a whole different start to a season than it has been, I think, since we've been doing this show for me, because everything's completely different. So I'm very excited about that.
Absolutely.
First and foremost, though, I do want to give a big shout out to Authentic, because Authentic has been holding it down all off season long. He has been putting in so much work. Big shout out to everybody who has been watching all the videos, everything that he has been doing. He has been holding it down. So most importantly, before anything else, I had to make sure that I gave the proper respect and flowers to the best co-host in the universe, Mr. Authentic. So
Salute,
good job.
I definitely appreciate that. It's been a very fun, jam-packed offseason. I told the people on Giant Overreaction the other day, no way I'm going another offseason not doing content.
Yeah.
It just totally enabled this season, the offseason, to fly by, and it was great, man. Just, felt like football season never left. Maybe around draft time it was kind of feeling like that, but outside of that, it's been great, man. So I'm definitely excited to talk some ball tonight, man. We got 4 games, and then we also got the Thursday night game as well, man. Big shout out to the chat, man. We're gonna be flying through this episode because we have so many games to go over. We got so much stuff to catch up on. Before we move into the game though, how you feeling about your Commanders? Give me a couple little nuggets on it and maybe a grade. Let's say y'all were a flat out F.
No if. We were a flat out F. I mean, I almost feel like we should have gotten an I. I don't even know if they give those out anymore, but it was incomplete. It was a damn incomplete. I mean, it's like I said, it's completely different. So if I were to have to give it a grade, I would give it an A+, because it's a completely clean slate. And I think that
I just want to get you back into the, I'm always here to reel you back in, right?
No, listen, I have
reel you back in. Do you remember the beginning of last season?
I do.
It was like, man, Eric Bieniemy, man, we got this, that, the
Sam
third,
Howell.
man, we gonna do big things.
No, I don't have those sort of expectations at all. I feel good, and I feel like A+, because the one thing that I'm the most confident in is the way we evaluated the quarterback position and what we did. And I feel like we got a guy. And I haven't felt like this since RG3. I was excited for Haskins, rest in peace. And I got a little overzealous about Sam Howell last season. I never felt really for the Wentz or for the Heineke's and Alex Smith. I appreciate what he did here. But with Jaden Daniels, it feels electric here in the city once again, like it did with RG3. And so, for that, that's a main point. I mean, you know what it's like. You have to have a quarterback in this league to win. So for me, that's weighing heavy on the grade. Obviously, I was not a big Dan Quinn guy in the beginning, but I felt like once I heard him,
hate. That's that Cowboys.
No, it wasn't hate as much as it was I wanted that shiny new toy, that Ben Johnson fresh in the package, And I think that I really came around on him. And I liked his philosophy. I liked the coaching staff. I thought the coaching staff was well-rounded out. I'm a big fan of the coordinators that were hired. So in all of that aspect, and then obviously, the general manager, all of the new faces, everything is new. Everything is new. You know, people are gone. The roster is completely changed. So for that, it's just like I have this level of excitement, but tempered expectations. So that's kind of where
reason
I'm
why
at.
I tried to reel you back in off that A plus, there's no room for improvement after an A plus. That's as good as it gets. So
Well, you got to graduate. You got to graduate. That's what the next move is. You got to graduate from the cellar to the playoffs. You know, you can get all the grades. You know what I'm saying, but you still got to move on up. You know.
This is facts. This is facts. Well, I can't say the same for our offseason, but it was a pretty decent offseason. Definitely brought in some good players. Let some good players walk as well, too. So we're going to be talking about that when we get to the Giants game. But you ready to start off with this first matchup?
Yes, sir.
All right, let's get right to it. We're going to be breaking down the Green Bay Packers. My doppelganger, Jordan Love, headed to Brazil to take on Jalen Hurts and the Philadelphia Eagles. All right, Beard, lot to go over in this game. A lot has changed since last season with these two teams. Kickoff is at 8:15 on Friday in Brazil. The Eagles are favored by 2 in this one from what I saw last. The over-under was 49 in this one. The Eagles finished last year 11-6, lost to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the wild card game 32-9. Pretty big surprise for Philadelphia Eagles fans, but considering how they were on a skid at the end of the season, losing 5 of their last 6, I think a lot of people around the NFL community expected that. The Packers finished 9-8, beat the brakes off the Dallas Cowboys in the wild card round. Then they lost to the San Francisco 49ers in the divisional by only 3 points. They lost that game 24-21. It was really good to go back, kind of look at some of these games and just kind of remember where we were at with things. I mean, Jordan Love right there on his way to a championship game and ends up losing to the 49ers. Last meeting, the Eagles beat the Packers 40-33. That was in 2022. The Eagles put up 500 yards in that game, 363 on the ground. They damn near had 50 rushing attempts. Shout out to the gang. That is the best version of RTDB if I've ever seen it. Now, the Packers, Green Bay started 2023 with a record of 2-5. So things were looking pretty shaky for my doppelganger over there. But Jordan Love, man, he definitely finished the season extremely strong. 32 touchdowns, over 4,000 yards. In weeks 8 through 17 for Jordan Love, he had 21 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. This is the crazy part about all of this to me. No 1,000-yard running back behind him. No 1,000-yard wide receiver on the entire roster. Jaden Reed led them with 793 yards. Romeo Doubs and Jaden Reed both had 8 touchdowns on the year. So I do kind of expect a possibility of the Green Bay Packers to maybe just regress just a little bit. I think that the way that they played last year at the end of the year, extremely hot. Now, I just want to talk about a couple notable additions for the Green Bay Packers. Brought in Josh Jacobs from the Las Vegas Raiders. They traded for my guy literally the day I was talking about him on the Giant Overreaction. They went out there and traded a 7th rounder for Malik Willis to come in and be the backup quarterback in Green Bay. That's now the second quarterback room in the NFL that's just full of African-Americans. You got to love to see that considering where the game came from. They also drafted Marshawn Lloyd out of USC. They brought in safety Javon Bullard in the 2nd round out of Georgia. And then they signed my guy, Xavier McKinney, to a 4-year, $67 million contract. Still got some dogs over there. They got Jair Alexander, Rashawn Gary. Definitely got some players. Now, the Philadelphia Eagles, for the 2nd year in a row, I believe, clean slate with the coordinators here. Got 2 new coordinators coming in here. Kellen Moore on the offensive side of the ball.
Crazy.
Vic Fangio on the defensive side of the ball. I'm worried about that. Now, they did lose some players. Jason Kelsey. You got Cam Jurgens, though. A lot of people don't know about Cam Jurgens out of Nebraska. He's going to be a guy, and I'm sure you remember back in the day when I was a Cornhuskers fan during the Tommy Frazier era. DeAndre Swift, Rashard Penny, your guy that you thought was going to do some stuff. Boston Scott. So 3 running backs they lost. Couple of wide receivers here. They lost Zacchaeus to you guys, Marcus Mariota to you guys. So doing a little bit of swapping out here.
There's a lot of NFC East going on between these 2 teams right now.
You guys especially, man. When you look at this roster, you guys were pulling some guys from that team, man, and definitely lended them another player in Jahan Dotson. But you got Fletcher Cox, Hassan Reddick, Shaquille Leonard, Sean Bradley, not to be confused with the 7'6" center from the 76ers. 7'6" for the 76ers. Kind of crazy. And they lost safety Kevin Byard as well. But they bring in Saquon Barkley, big weapon. Jahan Dotson. They brought in the tight end, C.J. Uzoma from, where was he at? Cincinnati, I believe.
Cincinnati.
They also brought in Mekhi Becton to come in and play a little
Love
bit
that.
of right guard as well. You got Bryce Huff now from the Jets coming off the edge. Linebacker Devin White getting up there in a little bit of age and whatnot, but still a guy who can contribute, and brought back safety C.J. Gardner-Johnson. Drafted Quinyon Mitchell, drafted Cooper DeJean with their first 2 picks, brought in a couple other guys, Johnny Wilson out of Florida State, big, tall wide receiver, probably will get converted to tight end, and they also brought in Jeremiah Trotter Jr. from Clemson. Now, just want to go over their offensive rankings real quick before I toss this over to you to get your opinions on this one. The Philadelphia Eagles, they were damn good last year. And it's very surprising that they didn't get down there. They were top 5 in rushing offense, top 10 in passing offense, top 10 in points scored. They were 7th in points scored. I really don't understand how the Philadelphia Eagles fell apart the way that they did, but they got a tough matchup here on Friday to start the season. I got a couple little nuggets, but I don't want to be too long-winded here. I'm going to throw this to you. What are you thinking as far as this matchup? I'm looking at the quarterbacks, especially Jordan Love versus Jalen Hurts. And I just think that these 2 wide receivers for the Philadelphia Eagles could definitely present some problems along with Saquon Barkley. But what are you thinking?
Listen, these are 2 quarterbacks that I was extremely high on coming out of the draft. And to see where they have progressed now is fun to watch. I honestly think that there's a strong possibility that you could be possibly looking at the NFC Championship game right here in this matchup.
I like where we didn't even have no pre-production, no nothing. I like where you going with this.
So that's how I feel about these 2 teams. And it's interesting you brought up the fact about how no wide receiver on that Packers team last year had 1,000 yards because they're so deep at the position. Yep. Dontavian Wicks, Jaden Reed, Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs. They got 2 tight ends in Musgrave and Kraft. Adding Josh Jacobs was such a big move for me because you talked a little bit about the possibility of regression for this team. I think the best way to get even though this isn't technically his second year, so it's not like a technical sophomore slump, but the best way to do that is to bring in a guy and nothing against Aaron Jones. I love Aaron Jones, and we're going to talk about him a little bit today too, but I think that Josh Jacobs, he needed to get out of that Raiders. That it just wasn't working for him. There was just a bad vibe going on over there. As much as I love Antonio Pierce, it just wasn't a good fit anymore for Josh Jacobs. I think he's got a lot left in the tank. It's going to be interesting though because they don't have AJ Dillon. I think he's on the IR now for the rest of the year. I'm pretty sure he's out for the season with a neck injury.
He wasn't that effective anyway. I didn't think. I mean, that's kind of a guy that's looking like headed down on a downward trajectory.
So it'll be interesting to see how they handle that backfield outside of Josh Jacobs. I love Xavier McKinney coming over to Green Bay as well. So I think in this matchup particularly, there's a lot of offensive firepower. A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith, how many times did we talk about this with the Philadelphia Eagles last year? Who's going to be wide receiver 3? They went out.
That was your thing last year. You literally said that like every week.
And they went out and they got Jahan Dotson, which, it wasn't working here for him in Washington. I think he's a talented player. I think it's a perfect position for him to be the wide receiver 3 over there. I'm kind of interested to see how he progresses in that system. And you talked about the 2 new coordinators. The big thing is with the Philadelphia Eagles is, there's been this noted tension between Jalen Hurts and Sirianni, right? How much of that is going to be media hype and how much of that is actually going to be reality and play into the season? I think that's going to be one of the biggest things that we're going to be looking at. But as far as this game goes, I'm expecting I think Saquon Barkley and Josh Jacobs, 2 just really good running backs. I think you could say Josh Jacobs for most of his career has been hanging around that top 10, 15 range as far as running backs go in the league. At times, he was probably a top 5 statistically running back in the league. And you got Saquon,
he was number 1 in rushing a couple of years ago.
Exactly. And I think you got Saquon, 2 in this matchup, 2 guys looking for a fresh start, maybe a little bit of a chip on their shoulder. And they both have really good quarterbacks, really good wide receivers. It's just very balanced teams. Both of these teams are very balanced. I think it's going to be a really fun matchup. It'll be interesting to see how much of the Brazil effect plays into this game. But I think it's going to be a high-powered offensive matchup for sure.
Yeah, most definitely, man. And I wanted to talk a little bit about Jalen Hurts. You talked about Jordan Love and his weapons. And, I'd say especially in the NFC East community, a lot of people look at Jalen Hurts' season last year as a bad season. And, me and you both have been, trying to warn people about Jalen Hurts from the day he started over there in Philadelphia and took over for Carson Wentz. But I want to question, like, did he really have a bad season?
No.
Last year, 3,858 yards. He had 23 passing touchdowns, 15 rushing touchdowns. That's the most yards in his career, the most passing touchdowns in his career, the most rushing touchdowns in his career. So I question, how could that be a bad year? And I know everybody's going to point to the interceptions, 15 interceptions. But when you're scoring over 30 touchdowns from the quarterback position, it's really difficult to label that as a failure as far as the season goes. Now, Jalen Hurts was the second most blitzed quarterback in the entire league. They were blitzing him on almost 40% of his snaps, and Nick Sirianni and last year's offensive coordinator, Brian Johnson, really had no answer for that for 7 straight games if you go into the playoffs. They were 30th in passer rating versus 6 or more rushers coming at Jalen Hurts that season. 99% of the time. This stat to me makes no damn sense. And I hope that Kellen Moore goes in here and brings a little bit of that Dallas Cowboys vibe that he had. Jalen Hurts, 99% of the time, was in the shotgun last year. And they ran inside zone from that more than any team in the NFL. And the thing that I've been talking about last year with Jalen Hurts, shout out to the quarterback school and JT O'Sullivan, is no hot concepts installed in that entire offense. So when you send the blitz at Jalen Hurts, they're really just expecting him to just bail them out. And that couldn't happen last year. And unfortunately, I think that's where the beef stems from between Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni, is he's looking at his head coach to make an adjustment. We always talk about this in games in general in the NFL, and it's about making adjustments. And it's not just week to week. It's not just game to game. It's not just half to half. It's literally possession to possession.
Series to series.
Yeah, literally series to series. You need to be making adjustments to put your quarterback especially in a better position to be able to go out there. And now, the biggest failure of the Philadelphia Eagles last year is the defense. And, looking at the numbers, it supports that. All those offensive rankings, they're all in the top 10. Their defense was in the bottom 3 in every category. Their rush defense was 30th. Their pass defense was 28th. The points allowed was 30th. That's why the Philadelphia Eagles didn't make the run that people thought they could make. They got killed in man defense. I think that Vic Fangio is going to come in here, bring that style from Miami, which will be a little bit more conservative and protect the big plays over the top, a little bit more quarters, a little bit more cover 3. And I think the Eagles just have a better roster this year. Yeah, they lost some pieces, but all those people that they brought in to supplement those pieces that they lost, I think the one place where they're going to be not as good is up front on that defensive line. I mean, you lose Hassan Reddick, you lose Fletcher Cox. That's going to be very tough to replace those guys. But they weren't getting after the quarterback in a major way last year anyway. They were somewhere in the middle of the pack. The year before that, they had, I want to say they were pushing 70 sacks.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah, definitely getting after quarterbacks. Now you added Saquon Barkley, a guy that I think is definitely not, washed or, on a decline, as a lot of people like to say. I think that Saquon Barkley was kind of clocked out last year, and now you get to put him behind one of the better offensive lines in the entire league. Absolutely a top 5 offensive line that he's going to be behind, and big dudes like Mekhi Becton at the guard position. I can imagine like small Saquon trying to find gaps and holes around a guy.
And not being the focus of the offense. Like being able to play in an offense where the defense is not literally going into the game being like, he's their only player. That's right. All you know what I'm saying? Like that, I think, is one of the biggest things for Saquon. It's just going to open up so much opportunity for him.
Yeah, it really is, man. And, teams are going to still have to scheme to stop Saquon Barkley, but now you have those 2 guys on the outside. You got a quarterback that when he gets in the red zone presents hella issues. So I think that the Philadelphia Eagles are a team that's going to be right there. Like you said, could possibly be a NFC Championship preview that we're watching here tonight. I got a little bit more faith invested in the Philadelphia Eagles this year than I do the Packers, just because the Packers got on that hot streak last year. Reminds me a lot of Trevor Lawrence and the Jacksonville Jaguars the previous year. And then, they got to the playoffs. They beat the Chargers, but came back the following year and kind of had a regression. They can't afford to get any injuries. Obviously, I think both teams here, want to try to stay healthy throughout the year, just like the rest of the teams in the league. But I'm looking at the Philadelphia Eagles in this one. Being that it's in Brazil, it's not really a home game, which makes things a little bit tough. But I'll go ahead and give you a score right here so we don't be too long-winded on this game. I think the Philadelphia Eagles win this one. I think it'll be just over 50 on the total. I'm taking the Eagles 30-21 in this one.
30-21. And I'm going to be on our score predictions this year, okay?
Good stuff.
On the score predictions. I kind of have a similar, score, but I'm going to go Green Bay. I think Green Bay wins this game by a score of 27-24.
I knew you would pick Green Bay. You low key, you kind of root for them a little bit. You big Jordan Love fan.
There's a lot of these teams I feel like I kind of low key root for, right?
Yeah. You got a few of them, man. You got about 4 or 5 of them. All right, so that's how we see it. Y'all can spam y'all scores in the chat if y'all want to. Shout out to the gang, man. I see everybody in the building. Stephen White, homie 1T is in the building. Daily Poet is in the building. The Illa is in the building. What's going on with y'all, man? All right, so let's get into this one. We're going to be very quick on the Giants game. If you didn't see, we did a preview with the Minnesota Vikings at New York Giants game that came out a couple of days ago. A little bit more in depth, a little bit more focused on the defensive side of the ball. I am going to talk a little bit about the offense here in this matchup, but let's get off into it, man, talking about the Minnesota Vikings headed to MetLife to take on our New York Giants.
Giants are on the board with 11:16 to go here in the third.
All right, y'all. Definitely excited about this one. Sunday is going to be amazing. Definitely going to be charting Daniel Jones in this game and putting together a compilation. Keep your eyes peeled for that one coming out right after the game. Kickoff is Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The New York Giants finished 6-11. Minnesota Vikings had a really rough year, rough start and a rough ending, but they ended up finishing the year 7-10. Last meeting, the Giants beat the Minnesota Vikings in the 2022 wild card game, 31-24. Daniel Jones, biggest, brightest spot, I would say, as a quarterback, showed up in that game in a major way. Historic day for Daniel Jones. Now, Minnesota Vikings have lost a lot of players, but they have added a lot of personnel over there as well. This is not that 2022 defense like I explained in the last preview here. They did lose Daniil Hunter to the Houston Texans. They lost Jordan Hicks to the Cleveland Browns. Let me get this these notifications off. This watch going crazy right now. They also lost DJ Wonnum, their 4th round selection in 2020. But they added a lot of talent here, and I think the best player that they added was Jonathan Grenard from the Houston Texans. They're paying him $19 million a year. They also brought in edge rusher Andrew Van Ginkel from the Miami Dolphins. Blake Cashman from the Houston Texans. That's another sleeper signing right there. Shaq Griffin, Stephon Gilmore, Fabian Moreau. So they definitely revamped the linebacker core a good bit, and they brought in some great help for that secondary. Rest in peace to the homie that they drafted in the 4th round, too, Kyrie Jackson. You know Serge trained him, bro?
I did not know that, but I knew he was local.
Yeah, he was a local kid, man. And Serge was telling me like some of the details about what went down that I didn't know about. But rest in peace to him, man. I know that the Vikings are definitely mourning his loss. But they had to address cornerback because of that situation. They also had some pieces already there with Byron Murphy Jr., Ivan Pace at the inside linebacker, O.G. Harrison Smith out there. And they also spent their 17th pick on Dallas Turner, which I thought was a great way to spend a top 20 pick. You already saw him making an impact, in the preseason and whatnot. So I'd expect him to be able to be out there and giving our quarterback a little bit of fits, a little bit of problems here. Now, the Giants, man, revamped in a major way here, brought in Malik Neighbors, Brian Burns, Jermaine Illuminor, John Runyon, Greg Van Roten, Devin Singletary, Drew Lock, Tyler Nubin in the draft, along with Andrew Phillips, Theo Johnson, Tyrone Tracy, and Darius Muasau. And we also lost Saquon Barkley, Xavier McKinney, Darren Waller, Leonard Williams, and Tyrod Taylor. That's 5 players that all contributed to what the New York Giants were doing over the past couple of years. We lost Leonard Williams. You could say we didn't even lose him. We gave him away to a trade, got a 2nd-round pick for him from the Seattle Seahawks, which we ended up using and flipping to get Brian Burns. Giants offensive rankings, very, very, very tough
just
year.
Bad, just the worst, right? They're down there like, bottom 3 and everything, I'd imagine.
Yeah, across the board as far as offensive rankings go, 31st rush offense, 28th pass offense, 30th in points per game. Rush defense was 29th. Points allowed 26th. The Giants we were just a terrible team in 2023.
We were both bad.
We were both really bad. At least y'all tanked. But the one ranking that was pretty good for the Giants last year is the pass defense was ranked 12th, to my surprise. And that was under Wink Martindale, sending the kitchen sink at these quarterbacks. But that's 4 categories in the bottom 5. Not a good look for the New York Giants. The Vikings offense in 2023, rushing offense ranked 25th, and they got away from the run very early in the season. Their passing offense was ranked 17th. The Vikings were 5th in the NFL in passing yards, too, 256.4 yards per game. That was surprising to me. Points scored, they were 22nd, and the Vikings were 2nd in the NFL in giveaways. So that's what I'm looking forward to in this game. Vikings still going to be wheeling out the same and a really good offensive line in this game. I think that's going to give the edge rushers, the new one with Brian Burns, our our 2022 draft round or draft pick with Kayvon Thibodeau. I think these guys are going to have a little bit of trouble against these two outside guys on this offensive line, Christian Darrisaw and Brian O'Neill. Both had PFF grades over 74. And I'm still questioning if the Giants can stop the run. While speaking about Brian Burns and Kayvon Thibodeau, two guys who really struggled stopping the run last year. Brian Burns, I would say, is a tick better than what we got out of Kayvon Thibodeau. But we're looking for Kayvon Thibodeau to make that leap. You still got Dexter Lawrence in the middle of this defense. Not quite sure who they're going to roll out at 3-tech. You got Nachos. You got Jordan Phillips was there for a while. This kid, Chapman that they just brought in. I think this guy was a UDFA, had a great hustle play in the preseason. So still a question mark there. And the secondary, very suspect right now, but they did bring back Adoree Jackson. So I do think the Giants will have a chance in this game. I think these are two teams that are pretty evenly matched up, to be honest. Both have question marks at the quarterback position. Both brought in new running backs, but when you look at the weapons on the outside, I think the Minnesota Vikings have a one-up. I'll talk about that a little bit here, but what are you seeing in this matchup between the Minnesota Vikings and the New York Giants?
Well, there's going to be some things I'm going to be looking at. The trenches, obviously, is one. That's something I look at in every game. I'm a big Brian Burns guy. I thought one of the best conversations from the offseason that you had on your show was the Brian Burns top 10 debate. I thought that was a really interesting conversation. And my initial mind wanted to go yes. And then when you started breaking it down, I kind of really thought about it from a different perspective. But I love Brian Burns. I think it's going to be huge for them. For the Commanders and the Giants, this is going to be something that's going to be very similar. That front on the defense is going to be so important because one of the ways that we always talk about how, a decisive quarterback, helps with a bad offensive line, right? When you have a bad secondary or a subpar secondary, the best thing that helped them is that front. That defensive front can get to the quarterback quick enough. It doesn't allow for those holes in the secondary to be exposed as easily because the quarterbacks are under pressure. So that's going to be huge for Thibodeau and for Burns and for that that defensive front to begin with. Obviously, we're going to be looking at the quarterbacks. Daniel Jones is there's not a quarterback in the National Football League that's under a bigger microscope this season than Daniel Jones is. I just don't think that there's.
Like if you hold the microscope out in the sun, you could burn some shit. I think we're beyond it. I think we've burned some shit already.
Well, I mean, for most of us who are in on the whole Daniel Jones thing, as far as people in the Giants community, but nationally, I think it's become a bigger sore eye for the organization. But I think there's gonna be a lot of pressure on him, and this is huge for his career. This is a make or break year for Daniel Jones. I don't think it's gonna make or break his future with the Giants. I think no matter what, they're gonna have to move on from Daniel Jones, even if he wins a Super Bowl, which is highly unlikely. There's a lot of issues there at the quarterback position. Sam Darnold, on the other hand, is a guy I absolutely hated coming out of college. I thought he was so overrated because I watched a lot of him in college. Him being at USC, and obviously I'm a Notre Dame fan, so that's a big rivalry there. So I think I've seen a lot of progression for him. There is a chance. Now, this might be a hot take, and I'm not saying that this is going to happen, but I want to lay the foundation. There is a chance that Sam Darnold has a Geno Smith sort of revitalization to his career this year.
People have been talking about that too, and I mean he's in a great situation here with Kevin O'Connell, as the head coach, calling plays, and he's a guy that just helps quarterbacks. Phil Simms was talking about that on the Simms Complete podcast. But Sam Darnold, the biggest problem is the mistakes, man.
Yeah.
It's a Daniel Jones type thing, and I think with Sam Darnold, the mistakes are even more egregious. They're like enhanced type of mistakes. Yeah, it's like, bro, what are you doing? And just to kind of tap into some numbers here that I brought up on the last show, when he was in Carolina with his last meaningful, playing time, he started the first 4 games with 10 total touchdowns, 3 interceptions. He had 3 rushing touchdowns in the first 4 games. In his last 8 games, he had 10 interceptions, 4 touchdowns, a 5-game streak without even throwing a touchdown. And they went 1-7 during that stretch. And then they had to reconsider what they were doing at the quarterback position. So, I do agree with you that Sam Darnold could go out here and have a Geno-like year. But I think that Geno, when he was with the Jets, never really had that, like, oh, my God, bonehead type of turnovers
just kind of
saw
fizzled.
out of Darnold.
Yeah, it was completely different, that sort of aspect of it. But I'm glad you brought up the turnovers, especially with these two quarterbacks. And not even just the turnovers, but the bad decisions, right?
Yeah.
One of the things that I always like to focus on when you have quarterbacks like that is the run game, right? So, I mean, you're looking at Aaron Jones, who I said we were going to talk about. I love Aaron Jones. I've always been a big Aaron Jones guy. I think he's very versatile. I think he fits in very well for this offense. He can kind of do some of the same things that Dalvin Cook was doing in his prime, not even necessarily his prime, but, the last year or so before he left there.
Yeah,
I think
which was his prime. I mean, he had like over 1,200 yards that year.
Yeah, so I expect Aaron Jones to be that sort of running back. And then we got to look at the running back position for the New York Giants. And I'm going to probably do this. I had to lean over here and look. You guys know I love my notepad, right? I had to lean over here and look at this notepad because there is not two running backs that I mix up more than in my entire life than it is David Montgomery and Singletary. I always
You're not the only person that does that. I saw some people doing that on Twitter too.
I always do that. So, but I think Singletary might low key. I mean, I know we're gonna save fantasy stuff for Sunday, right? But he might get a workload, a heavy
Duggan
workload.
Said he should get about 80% of the snaps.
So it's going to be interesting. I think that these two teams are going to rely, even though they both have high power wide receiver ones in Neighbors and in Justin Jefferson. I think they're going to look at these running backs a lot, and we'll see in this game. We're kind of going to get that early sense of how they're going to use the run game. And I think, the New York Giants wide receiving core, I just want to touch on that briefly before, we get into some scores here.
Yeah.
I really, because, after we traded Jahan Dotson, I came out and I said, I think Washington's receiving core is bottom 5 in the league right now. Okay. And, I looked at the New York Giants because I went through every team. I looked at the wide receiver cores. And it's a lot of unproven talent to a certain degree, but how much of that unproven talent is on them versus the quarterback versus the coach? I mean, those are variables that are going to be presented in any team situation. But I do love the fact that you have the depth that you do at the wide receiver position, I think, in Jalen Hyatt, Wan'Dale Robinson, Malik Neighbors, Darius Slayton. I mean, I think all of those guys can make plays. Now, the problem is, can the quarterback get them the ball in position to make plays? Can the coaching staff create plays, and opportunities for these wide receivers? Because they're very versatile. All of them kind of can do a little bit of everything, and it's going to be interesting to see how that all pans out. But I think this game will be a little bit low scoring. I'll go ahead and give you my score first. But I'm looking at this game, and I'm treating the Giants and the Commanders the same going into week 1. Yeah, to me, it's still the same. I haven't seen anything to prove me otherwise that you guys and us are bad teams. So I'm going to take the Minnesota Vikings to win this game by a final score of 17-13.
Ooh, super low scoring. Okay. I mean, I don't know if you saw the New York Giants against the Houston Texans in that preseason game, and with our first team offense, it was scary.
There's no passing touchdowns for you guys all preseason. I think I heard you say that. No?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. It's preseason, though, right?
Yeah,
right, guys?
preseason.
Right, guys? I think the difficulty here for the Giants is going to be stopping Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison. Justin Jefferson put up 1,000 yards last year, only played in 9 games. And he did that with 4 different quarterbacks at the helm for him. And Jordan Addison stepped up in a major way. He had 10 touchdowns on the year. So I do think it's going to be tough. But no T.J. Hockenson in this game. I think that gives the Giants definitely an opening there to not have to worry about, the middle of the field. And that would have been probably a guy like Isaiah Simmons or probably, what's my guy, Andrew Phillips in the slot. So, T.J. Hockenson, he definitely gashed us in those couple of games in 2022. Combined for 23 receptions in 2 games, over 225 yards, 2 touchdowns. Yeah, that's definitely a relief that he's not going to be in this game. I will be looking forward to seeing their wide receiver 3 for the Vikings, Jalen Naylor, who he's supposed to have a breakout year this year. He had a really nice preseason as well. For me, it's all about getting Jones confident, man. Get Daniel Jones in that rhythm, short throws, get that running game going, keep him upright. This offensive line looked really good in that first preseason game against the Texans. Mistake-free football, man. Just don't make no mistakes. And I think whichever quarterback makes more mistakes in this game, that's going to be the team that's going to lose this one. But I'm going to still stick it with my Giants here, and I'm going to Giants win this one 21-20.
Close game. You know who else in the chat probably thinks that the New York Giants are going to win?
Who we talking about?
The one and only
my guy.
You
Tuto.
I
Just for him.
was waiting for it because I
Just
heard
for
it the
him.
other day and I was like, oh, he's got the echo effect now for Tuto. Big
That's
shout
just
out
for
to
Tuto, man.
Tuto with a $9.99 cent super chat. It's been so long since I said $9.99. Big shout out to Tuto. We appreciate you. He says, salutes and respects to Authentic in the Beard, the Gold Mine Engineer, and the Roadmap's Thomas Guide Library. Shout out, that's a good one right there. And all diehard Giants fans across the pond, greetings from our entire rugby team in Italy. And we say, forget about it.
My dog, Tuto in the building, man. Y'all know what it is. All right, Beard, you ready for your game here, man? I've been waiting, a whole damn summer to talk about your Washington Commanders here. I'm not too hyped about them, man, but I am hyped to be there week 2 to see them go up against my New York Giants. That's going to be fantastic. But let's get into it, man. You were talking about Heineke. Let's go ahead and talk about your Commanders taking on those Bucs. Remember, Heineke was birthed against the Bucs in the playoffs. All right, man. Commanders headed down 95 South to take on the Tampa Baker Buccaneers. Man, shout out to Baker Mayfield, man. That dude balled out last year.
I feel like me and you have a pretty good pulse on the quarterbacks, right? Because, I mean, there's some guys out here that we talked about. Jalen Hurts, Jordan Love, Baker Mayfield. My guy, the mustache is starting in Vegas. I mean,
I'll take my L's, though, where I got to take my L's because I was high on Justin Fields.
Trey Lance.
That didn't work out too well. Trey Lance was crazy. Hey, I need some Brock Purdy flowers, too, man.
I was a big Brock Purdy hater.
Big time. All right, man. So, Commanders taking on the Bucs here. Commanders finished last year dead last in the NFC East at 4-13. They finished the year losing 8 straight games, 10 of their last 11. You remember that running joke from last season? After starting out 2-0. Man, Washington was popping.
We were like 5-0, including the preseason games. I was on a roll. I was on a high, bro.
What we talking about here? The Bucs won the NFC South at 9-8 under Todd Bowles. They beat the Eagles in the wild card game, then lost to the Lions in the divisional round 31-23. Mayfield, man, that boy had a year, man. 4,044 yards, 28 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. Mike Evans doing what he does, which is getting 1,000 yards. He did that again for the 10th straight season. I believe that's an NFL record. Couldn't run the ball to save their damn lives, though. And I think if they had a decent running game, they probably would have went a little farther in the playoffs. They were 31st in the league in rushing, and the Bucs averaged just 90 yards rushing per game. And I know Baker Mayfield's not, a running quarterback, so that doesn't help that either. But they're going now for their 4th straight NFC South title in a row. And what's crazy is they won a Super Bowl in 2020, and they didn't win the division when Tom Brady was there. This all started after the Tom Brady era. Now, the Commanders, on the opposite end of the spectrum here, their defense was absolutely terrible last year. They gave up 338.9 yards per game. That was dead last in the NFL. They gave up 30.5 points per game. That was dead last in the NFL. They fired Jack Del Rio mid-season. And Ron Rivera couldn't really do much better. New owner, new coaches, new quarterback. Dan Quinn takes over as the head coach. Cliff Kingsbury comes in from Arizona to take over the offensive coordinator duties. They drafted Jaden Daniels out of LSU, man, and that one just stings. That one really stings. I thought the Giants were absolutely going to find a way to get a quarterback in this draft, and they didn't. And now I got to sit up here and talk about Jaden Daniels with the beard all season for 17 games, maybe more. You never really know here. They also brought in Tyler Biadasz from the Dallas Cowboys to come in and play center. They revamped that linebacker core, brought in Bobby Wagner, Frankie Louvu. They drafted really well. I mean, first couple of days, I was looking at Washington like y'all had one of the better drafts. They brought in Johnny Newton to come in and play D-tackle. Double dipping a little bit. You guys got some guys over there at D-tackle and whatnot, but, depth will never hurt. Benson Knott, man, out of Kansas State. Love that pickup. That's Sal's guy. Sal was talking about him all offseason. Brought in cornerback Mike Sanristill from Michigan. Definitely a versatile kind of Swiss Army knife in the secondary. And they also drafted wide receiver Luke McCaffrey, Christian McCaffrey's brother, another Cornhusker. It's still a work in progress, but I think that the Commanders are actually headed in a really good direction. I think they're going places and might not show it on the scoreboard or in the box score in this game against the Bucs because I am leaning towards the Bucs, but let me know what you got, man. And, if we're going to maybe get the mapping, hit the road for a little road trip.
I mean,
here.
well, yeah. Before we get to the roadmap, I'm just going to touch on a few little things. You know, there's a lot of this is something that we talk about every damn year on Authentic and Beer. The parallels between the New York Giants and the Washington, team, whatever, the Commanders, the football team, the Redskins. Ever since, it doesn't matter the name, they've been bad, right? It's just been bad, a lot of it. Obviously, the offensive line. A lot of people in our fan base were very upset that they didn't go out and make a move for a higher profile offensive lineman. You talked about some of the new guys. Pretty much it's a whole new offensive line outside of Cosme and Wiley. I think a lot of people wanted to see Wiley gone. There's some question marks right now as to who's going to be starting at left tackle, whether it's going to be Cornelius Lucas or it's going to be the draft pick Coleman. I think a lot of us wanted to see Coleman in at left tackle. As of right now, he was number 1 on the depth chart, but the reports are that Lucas has been taking all the first-team reps this week. So that'll be interesting to see what happens there. Coleman had some injuries during the preseason. You talked about Luke McCaffrey. He's slotted in as a starter right now on the depth chart going into week 1. So ahead of De'Ami Brown, which is going to be interesting to see because that's one of the things I'm going to.
Because De'Ami Brown been on the outside a lot when I was at training camp. He was on the outside a lot.
So it's going to be interesting to see that whole rotation of wide receivers outside of Terry McLaurin between Noah Brown, who we brought in, after
great signing.
That was a good signing for us. Then you got De'Ami Brown, Luke McCaffrey, you got Zacchaeus, even the mix in with some Pringle and those sort of guys.
I ain't going to try to say your first name. That's how I don't never say his.
Olmedius,
man.
It's very Greek mythology, right? I think that's what that's from.
Zacchaeus.
I mean, we didn't even talk about Austin Eckler, which you guys know I'm a big Antonio Gibson guy. I think Austin Eckler was a great replacement for him. I think he'll work really well with Brian Robinson. Our secondary, like your secondary, has some youth to it and a lot of question marks. That's just the secondary has a lot. We only have 3 corners on our roster. We got 17 safeties, but 3 corners. So it's going to be interesting to see. Emmanuel Forbes, you talked about being under a microscope. My guy, Emmanuel Forbes, he is in Biology 101 on the little slide thing that you put with the specimen on it. That's him. He's the specimen on the slide.
Triple beam balance vibes.
Oh, yeah. It's going to be pretty intense for Emmanuel Forbes. I'm rooting for the kid. I think he has potential. Benjamin St. Juste also, he's going to be under a microscope. But, Jeremy Chin, I love that signing. I love the draft
older,
picks.
But definitely still a functionable type of player.
Yeah, so it's going to be really interesting. Once again, that front is going to have to get to the quarterback. We're going to be looking at Jamin Davis. They're going to be using him as a DN now. So can he get, can he revitalize his draft stock status quo, as
what
far
was he,
as
a second rounder?
No, he was a first round pick of Ron Rivera. Yeah. Oh yeah. So there's a lot of bad blood there. Johnny Newton.
He was a linebacker first.
Linebacker,
right?
yeah, he was a linebacker.
What are we doing drafting linebacker in the first round? You got to be a straight dog to be a linebacker getting drafted in the first round.
Yeah, we're not going to talk about Ron Rivera and the whole Marty Party draft pick situation because it's been a complete failure. Just call a spade a spade, So, and obviously, I'm very interested to see the Cliff Kingsbury effect. The roster turnover is is crazy. Where it's like a 57% roster turnover rate. On the defense, you got your 2 guys up front, Payne and Allen, and then you got St. Juste and Forbes. Outside of that, you're pretty much looking at a completely new defensive starting players there. Offensively, same sort of situation. You got McLaurin and Brian Robinson, and then the 2 offensive linemen. Outside of that, you're looking at all new starters. So for me, it's hard to judge. It's going to be a very interesting season, but that's what I'm kind of looking at as far as overall picture. Now, we can call Stacey Dash, and we can get to the roadmap.
That's what's up. I'm going to call her on a cell phone like Zach Morris had on Saved by the Bell. Let's get to it.
Yeah, you're getting on the freeway. What? No, turn right. Get out of the lane. No. Okay, get the procedure. Just get out the lane.
Oh, it feels good to hear that beat again. I told Authentic earlier today, I said, listen, the roadmap to victory, it's going to be very short. It's going to be concise and to the point because I don't got a lot of data. I don't got the numbers for you.
We speeding, bro. Let's get there. You know what I'm
We're
saying?
getting right there, ladies and gentlemen. Listen, the biggest part of the roadmap to victory is going to be, do not be the old Commanders. Do not be the old Washington football team. Do not be the old Washington Redskins. This is completely new. I don't want to see the same old, same old. Two things I'm really looking for if you want to get a victory in this game. You've got to play smart and you've got to play physical. The two things that we never, ever were able to really do under Ron Rivera was play smart and play physical. You know, we brought in Dan Quinn. We brought in Joe Witt. These are going to be the guys that are hyping up this trenches, Mike Allstott sound effects, sort of defense.
Sound effects.
Right? That's what I'm looking for. If you want to win this game, you got to play smart and you got to play tough. Because to be perfectly honest with you, for most of this year, we're going to be worse than the team that's across the field on the other sideline. And the only way that you can beat teams that are better than you is to play smarter than them and to play tougher than them. So that's really what I'm looking for the roadmap to victory. You got to play smart. You got to play tough. And one of the things that we've always been known for, and I feel like it happens every time I'm watching a damn game, every time we're recapping the game, it's a 60-yard play, a 70-yard play. We're going up against Mike Evans, Chris Godwin. So it's going to be... You're going to have to find a way to not give up the big play if you want to stick in this game. All that said, I'm picking the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to win this game by a final opening day. Listen, I told you, until you show me otherwise, you are still a 3-win team. Okay? Damn. So I'm picking the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to win this game by a final score of 24-21.
I'm not mad at you, man. That takes guts right there. I'm sure we lost some Commanders fans off that one right there. They're like, man, this podcast popping. Who are these two dudes? I'm going to pick the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Man, turn that shit off. Man. All right, so this is what I expect from this game. I think the Bucs wide receivers are going to feast. You brought up the secondary, and y'all are definitely struggle mode, burnt toast, and coffee time. I do think that Jaden Daniels is going to have his back against the wall, and he'll be forced to kind of show that he's a playmaker, and he'll make some big plays in this game with his arm and with his legs. Washington should probably rely on RTDB early in this game, get the rookie acclimated to the NFL speed. He's only played in 2 preseason games. Get his feet wet here before we start to really, take the cover off of the exotic vehicle. As I went to the Washington Commanders, they did a film session that I sat in on with Bobby Ingram and with Daryl Tapp, and they talked about Washington's going to rely on an up-tempo offense this year. I know you're going to like that. So I'd expect a lot of no huddle from Washington, but I think that the lack of the big plays is what's going to be the issue. I think that the Bucs will keep everything in front. If you get a big play from Dommy Brown in this game, I think you guys might be around, competing in this one, I think. Bucs have an extremely tough schedule, so this is a must-win game for them. They got Detroit, Philadelphia, Baltimore Ravens, Kansas City Chiefs, and the San Francisco 49ers in their first 10 games.
Good God. That's a stretch right there.
That's a buzzsaw. That's a gang, right? So I'm looking at this as a must-win. I'm going to take the Bucs to win this one 28-16. What score did you have?
24-21 Tampa Bay.
Okay, and real quickly, we didn't go over these, and I had these ready. First touchdown in this game.
First touchdown for the Washington, in the game, excuse me. Yeah, I think we're going to score first. And I'm going to go with a little bit of a long shot. I think he's plus 550 to score first touchdown. Austin Eckler.
Austin Eckler. Okay, I'm going to go Mike Evans in that Bucs matchup. What about in the Giants game? Who do you think is going to score the first touchdown?
Giants game, first touchdown. I have... Where's my guy? Oh, Jones. Aaron Jones.
Yo, so real quickly, I know we're up against the clock here, but I did a feature piece on Bleacher Report with Chad Ochocinco, and I represented the New York Giants in it, and I picked Devin Singletary to be the first touchdown. He picked Aaron Jones, so I'm crossing my fingers that Devin Singletary can get that first touchdown so I can @ Ochocinco on Twitter and talk my shit. What about in the Eagles game versus the Packers? Who you think will score the first touchdown?
There's only one way to go when we're talking to a bunch of New York Giants fans in the chat, right? Saquon Barkley's first touchdown.
I'll go Saquon Barkley, too. A lot of Giants fans ain't feeling that Saquon Barkley stuff no more.
I know they're not. That's why I had to pick them.
They definitely not feeling that. All right, let's get off into this, our last in-depth breakdown here with the Dallas Cowboys that will be taking on the Cleveland Browns. This is going to be a really interesting matchup here. All right, this one should be really good, man. Two really good teams that kind of fell short in the playoffs last year. The Cowboys finished 12-5 for the third straight season. They won the NFC East, didn't get the number one seed, and that definitely was their demise. They ended up playing the Green Bay Packers, and they lost in the wild card round. They ran into a buzzsaw known as the authentic doppelganger one time. They lost that game 48-32, but the score was not as far apart as the game actually was. The Browns finished 11-6, second in the NFC North. They lost to the Houston Texans in the wild card game. Got blown out, man. Socks blown off, 45-14 in that one. I like what the Browns have been doing here. I'm a big fan of the Browns' entire staff. Andrew Berry, a general manager, Kevin Stefanski as the head coach. They got Jim Schwartz as the defensive coordinator, and they brought in Ken Dorsey to come in and run that offense. They lost a couple of key players here, Kareem Hunt at the running back position being one of them. No Nick Chubb in this game. They also lost Joe Flacco, who came in and really played really good last year in relief for Deshaun Watson. They also added Jerry Jeudy at the wide receiver position. I think that could pan out well. Jerry Jeudy needed a new scene. I feel like hopefully he could get rid of the drops a little bit. They also brought in defensive lineman Quentin Jefferson from the Jets, and they brought in Jordan Hicks, the linebacker from the Minnesota Vikings as well. Another all-black quarterback room with Jameis Winston, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, and Deshaun Watson, and Tyler Huntley. I don't know if they're still carrying four quarterbacks on the roster.
I think they released him and the Ravens re-signed him.
Oh, Tyler Huntley.
Mm-hmm.
He's a very capable quarterback,
man.
Yeah. I thought he's kind of in that Tyrod Taylor range as far as backups go. The Cowboys come into this one with a couple of key Cowboys lost as well. Tony Pollard, Stephon Gilmore. They lost safety Jaron Kearse, who I was surprised to see he's still a free agent. I talked about it today on Twitter, and a lot of Cowboys fans were like, dude is absolute garbage. I mean, I think he could get a job in the NFL. They also lost Dorrance Armstrong to the Washington Commanders. Left tackle Tyron Smith to the Jets. That was a big one. And they also lost defensive tackle Jonathan Hankins to the Seattle Seahawks. But they added back Zeke Elliott, brought in Dalvin Cook. My Apple autocorrect put Calvin Cook, which is kind of crazy. And they also brought in Eric Kendricks from the Chargers as well. They drafted pretty well as well. Brought in Tyler Guyton. One of my favorites is Cooper Beebe that they brought in from Kansas State. I've really wanted the Giants to go out there and bring him in. And I like the cornerback that they drafted too, Kalen Carson out of Wake Forest. He's a pretty undersized corner but has a lot of speed. Marshawn Nealand as well, the edge rusher out of Western Michigan. They brought in your boy from Notre Dame too, Maris Leofau, the linebacker, who he had a couple of bad marks on his prospect kind of evaluation and whatnot, but I think he's a very capable player as well. So they brought in some youth. Still haven't really ironed out the contract situations with Dak Prescott. I'm going to tell you a great nugget about this game here. These teams were fantastic at home last year. We know the Cowboys were 8-0, but the Cleveland Browns were 8-1 at home. Now, they were 3-5 away, and the Cowboys didn't play that great away either. They were 4-5 on the road as well. So got to clean that up when you're on the road. I'm favoring and leaning towards the home team in this game, which is the Cleveland Browns. Just want to go over a couple of rankings here real quick. The Cowboys, it's a shame that they weren't like in the championship for them because they had a great team. Rushing offense was ranked 11th. Every other category was top 10. Every other category for them. Defensive and offensive. Their passing offense was second. Points scored, they were first. Rushing defense was 10th. Pass defense was 5th. Points allowed per game, they were 5th. And Dak Prescott was one of the best quarterbacks in the league in the regular season. An MVP runner-up, 36 passing touchdowns to lead the NFL. Second in the NFL in QBR at 72.7. Third in passing yards with 4,516 yards. CeeDee Lamb just got the bag. We're going to need to see that duo continue to do what they do if Cowboys fans want to see them win more games. But CeeDee Lamb, I mean, outside of Tyreek Hill, was probably the best wide receiver in all football last year. He had 12 touchdowns, 135 receptions, 1,749 yards. I mean, cut that in half.
I think he had 180 targets or something like that.
Ridiculous. I mean, their wide receiver core is not that great outside of Brandon Cooks over there. So they do lack some depth. The Browns were pretty good. Their rushing offense was 21st, though. Passing offense, 27th. Points per game, though, 10th. Rushing defense, 16th. Passing defense, number 1 in the NFL. And when it comes to points per game allowed, they were 13th. I'm looking at Deshaun Watson underneath that microscope. You talked about Daniel Jones having the most pressure on him. I think if there's any other quarterback you're going to mention, it's Deshaun Watson.
Nailed it.
Big money contract. They restructured it this offseason to create over $30 million for the Cleveland Browns. He only had 6 starts last year, and I think he had less starts than that in 2022 with the suspension and some injuries. Just 7 touchdowns to 4 interceptions, barely over 1,000 yards. That's 2 straight seasons of lackluster productivity from Deshaun Watson. And he's coming off that career high in 2020 where it looked like he was in the peak of his career.
Guy.
He was a guy. I mean, we were looking at him as one of the few elite quarterbacks around the league.
Absolutely.
Almost 5,000 yards that year, 33 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. And then you get Joe Flacco, who comes in. And I made a couple of jokes on my Twitter about Joe Flacco and how the Giants, could have signed him. Like, look, this guy's just sitting at home, and he comes in, he plays for the Cleveland Browns, he's winning some games, putting up some yards. That man led the NFL in passing yards per game. That don't make no damn sense. 323.2 passing yards per game for Joe Flacco in this one. This is a really good matchup. I think of all the NFC East games, it's either this one or the Packers game against the Eagles where you're just like, man, these could be like games down the line that, you could maybe see a 2 type of Super Bowl thing or very important type of games here. Like you said, it could be an NFC championship type of matchup with the Eagles and the Packers. What are your thoughts on this game here between the Cowboys and the Browns, though?
These 2 teams have some things I absolutely love about them, but they have a lot of question marks, okay? And they're kind of opposite on what's the question mark and what I love about them. Dallas Cowboys, Dak Prescott, he's a quarterback, okay? He's going to put up numbers, all right? We'll worry about the playoffs and all that stuff when we get to it. I'm not going to bring that up in the regular season because it doesn't matter right now, right?
Yeah, flowers today, huh?
Yeah, Deshaun Watson, right? On the other hand, it feels like it's been forever. Like, I haven't seen Deshaun Watson in I can't even remember the last time, like, exactly, right?
His
and
only
I'm
good game
concerned.
as a Brown is against y'all.
Yeah, and so everybody has a game against us, right? But
Yep.
I'm concerned about Deshaun Watson. I really am. And he has this lingering arm injury, and I hate to make the comparison, but I'm starting to get worried to the sense of like Cam Newton sort of situation, right? So like I'm really going to be watching Deshaun Watson to see how he looks, okay? Because I love their wide receiving core. Amari Cooper, Elijah Moore, Jerry Jeudy, Njoku at the tight end position. Like they have some weapons. No Nick Chubb. He's going to IR. He's going to miss at least the first 4 weeks, right? But I love Jerome Ford. He's not Nick Chubb, but I think he's a guy that you want to have if your guy Nick Chubb is not around. You know what I'm saying?
Almost 1,000 yards for Ford last year, and their offensive line is that good.
Exactly. So like, and then I look at the Dallas Cowboys, and it's like CeeDee Lamb is an absolute dog. Brandon Cooks is 30 years old. Who's going to step up in that role to make some plays? Because CeeDee Lamb's going to get his, but there's going to be a lot of defensive scheming on CeeDee Lamb. Okay, Zeke Elliott. What Zeke are we getting? We don't know. Okay, who's going to?
I think you're getting that Zeke from last year. 3.9 type of yards,
below average running back.
Yeah, a guy who can like do things in the red zone, but he's not going to be a guy who's going to be, pushing 1,000 yards type of running back.
Cook isn't even going to start the season with the team. He's still on the practice squad. Okay, so who's going to be making the plays for him? Is Rico going to be getting a lot of touches? We have to see what they're going to do at the running back position. So for me, there's a lot of holes there. There's a lot of question marks for the Dallas Cowboys. Jake Ferguson is a guy too. I see Kai in the chat. Jake Ferguson, I don't want to leave him out. He is a guy, but listen, we've seen it with the teams before. You can have, unless you have Travis Kelce, unless you have Sam Laporta, unless you have Trey McBride, George Kittle. I'll give you George Kittle too. You got to have a tight end like that. Jake Ferguson isn't a necessarily type of guy who's going to give you 12 catches, 100 yards, and 2 touchdowns on a semi-consistent
I'm reluctant
basis.
to put Trey McBride in that group of people, but I see where you're going with this, especially off projection. He's been playing well.
So that's kind of where I'm at with the Dallas Cowboys. I'm concerned there too. I have concerns about all of these holes outside of Dak and CeeDee Lamb, and they lost Bland for what 6 to 8 weeks, I think, on the defensive side of the ball. They have more question marks than they have exclamation points right now in Dallas, and that's a problem. So for me, I feel like in the NFL, quarterbacks win games more so than not, right? So in this situation, I have more faith in Dak Prescott than I do Deshaun Watson, and for that reason, I'm going to pick the Dallas Cowboys to win this game by a final score of 20-17.
Yeah, I feel you on the quarterback because we don't know who we're going to get, which Deshaun Watson we're going to get. I do think that, we are seeing two of the best pass rushers in the entire NFL go at it in this game, with Micah Parsons and Myles Garrett. Myles Garrett, man, like the Browns last year definitely found a way to get after the quarterback, and he was a big part of it. They had 49 sacks as a team that was 6th in the NFL. Myles Garrett, 86 pressures last year and 15 sacks. And I was looking at the pass rush win rate statistics as well. He was number 2 in the NFL, and the only person that was above him was Micah Parsons. So I think this is going to be a really interesting matchup. Which quarterback can be protected better, too? The Dallas Cowboys have revamped that offensive line a good bit. Cooper Beebe coming in, I believe, to play center. Drafted as a guard out of Kansas State. And then you got a new left tackle out there. It should be interesting. And then can the Cowboys run the ball? We know that the Cleveland Browns can run the ball with Jerome Ford. Is Ezekiel Elliott going to be able to come out here and be a contributor? Last year's numbers, not that great. 3.5 yards per carry, 642 yards. He didn't have as many attempts as he had when he was in Dallas, obviously. Only 3 touchdowns, too, so not really getting it done in the red zone. But we know that when you play running back with the New England Patriots, how that can be. It's the definition of a running back by committee type of philosophy over there. And Rico Dowdle, I think he's a capable type of running back, but he'll be better off playing second fiddle, I think, and trying to play that Tony Pollard role that Tony Pollard played when Ezekiel Elliott was with the Dallas Cowboys. Rico had 361 yards last year, but he was averaging 4.1 yards per carry and just 2 touchdowns. The running back room last year with the Dallas Cowboys struggled to put the ball in the end zone. Tony Pollard, his numbers just dipped completely down. His yards per carry went down, and he just wasn't getting in the end zone. And I think that's because they didn't have a back like Zeke Elliott. I'm not the kind of person that like roots on a player to fail and not play well, especially when you're a proven OG. So there's a portion of me that's considering I want to see Ezekiel Elliott have a decent bounce back year and just prove that he's not washed. I don't know if you saw that clip of him going through like the jug machine or whatnot, like where they had like all the cones hitting him. And when he got out of the machine, he just like bent over and everybody was like, damn, Zeke looks like an old man. But come to find out he got hit in the balls. So we know that you could be a young man or an old man. That shit'll take you out. So I'm going to go with the Cleveland Browns in this one. I just think that they have the better running game. I think they have equal or better defense. And I think that the quarterback play is not going to be that drastic. I think they have more weapons over there as well. Hopefully Deshaun Watson can get things back on track, and the Dallas Cowboys can start this year off 0-1 to give the rest of the division maybe a little bit of leadway to try to gain some games on them. But I'm going Browns 27-19.
Interesting.
What was your score again?
It was Dallas 20, Cleveland 17.
2017. So, all right. So we saw this one alike. The Eagles game, you picked the Packers. I picked the Eagles. I picked the Giants. Who did you pick?
I picked the Vikings.
You picked the Vikings, and I picked the Bucs, and you picked the Bucs. So the Bucs game's the only one we saw alike on?
Yeah, that's it.
Interesting. All right, we got one more game. This is going to be a
first touchdown.
Rematch. What is it?
First touchdown.
Oh, touchdowns for this one. Good call. Yeah, so first touchdown for the Cowboys game. Who you got?
CeeDee Lamb.
Ooh, CeeDee Lamb. I'm going to go Brandon Cooks. I've been picking running backs the whole show. I'm going to go Brandon Cooks.
Okay.
And you know what? Before we go to that game, let's talk a little bit about just the NFC East in its entirety, right? Let's talk about where we going to land. Where are these Washington Commanders going to end up at? And where
I got a whole separate notebook for that one.
All right, so when all's said and done, which team is going to win the NFC East? And give me a little bit about your hierarchy of how you think, the rest of the teams are going to fall in line after the division winner.
It's been, what, 20 years now since we've had a repeat winner in the NFC East?
Is it that?
I think
The
it's 20
Eagles
years.
didn't break that streak. Wow.
No, so we can count Dallas Cowboys. They're out. They're not going to win it.
Yeah.
It's interesting because without looking at the schedule, I'm like, Commanders are a 7-win team at best, And then I did like a win and loss, and I had us at 11-6, and I was like, "There's no way, bro. You got it. There's a lot of these toss-up games."
6, bro.
I had.
I can see you have not changed.
I
They
know.
say that
I
leopard
had to
spots
go
don't
back.
move.
I had to go back and be like, "There's a lot of these coin flip games that
Authentic is
is
gonna
not
slay me
not
for this
going to
11-win
go
take.
your way." All right. The winner of the NFC East this season will be the Philadelphia Eagles. I have them finishing with a record of 11-6. Second place, a bit of a surprise here.
This guy.
I'm gonna reach, and I'm gonna go with the Washington Commanders at 9-8.
Oh man, this guy.
Third place,
Those
Dallas
flowers just got burnt
Cowboys.
up.
Dallas Cowboys at 8-9. And in last place, the New York Giants at 7-10. So not a lot of like spread
you did
between
this
us.
last year too. You had a lot of high wins for each team.
Yeah. I mean, listen, let's be perfectly honest. Us and I mean you could both finish like 4-13. There's no doubt about that. Yeah.
Absolutely.
But I think if you look at Washington's schedule though, they have, I think, like, and this is all based off of last year and the algorithms and the crazy math stuff. We have like the 7th easiest schedule or something like that. The beginning of the schedule.
Y'all have the 7th.
Yeah,
easiest?
7th
Okay.
easiest schedule. So the beginning of our schedule is the meat and potatoes where it's really tough, and then obviously the Philly and Dallas games are tough in division, and you guys, because you guys always beat us anyways
Bucs, Giants,
right
bro,
now.
that's the easy
Yeah.
start.
So that's kind of where I was looking at. I think Dallas has a little bit of a tougher schedule. I think Dallas has the toughest schedule of everybody in our division. So that's where I'm at. I got Philly 11-6, Washington 9-8, Dallas 8-9, Giants 7-10.
I'm not even gonna do the record prediction because though it won't add up properly for me. So I'm gonna go Philadelphia Eagles win the division. I think they've improved their team and the holes that they that from players that they had lost, they filled them well. I thought they addressed cornerback, 2 new coordinators. Vic Fangio is definitely one of the better defensive minds in the league. Kellen Moore, not so much. Couldn't make it work with Justin Herbert, Keenan Allen. I know Mike Williams was hurt, but they got weapons over there, and he couldn't make it work. So I'm going to go Eagles number 1. I'm going to go Dallas Cowboys number 2, man. I mean, 3 straight years of 12-5. It's relatively the same team with the revamped offensive line. They got some injuries to start the year as long as they can get through the first couple of games without Deron Bland. And we kind of thought the same thing last year with Trayvon Diggs, and they found a way with Stephon Gilmore, and I think they will do that this year. They still got a lot of firepower on the offense. I'll go with them at number 2 in the division. And this is where it gets dicey, but I'm gonna keep it funky. No homer stuff over here. I'm gonna go Washington Commanders at the 3rd spot in the NFC East, and then I'm gonna go the New York Giants at the bottom of the division here until proven otherwise. But we got football on Sunday, so if things look good, maybe I'll pivot and change my opinion on that.
Yeah, so we're not too far apart. Just a Washington Dallas flip flop.
Yeah. We'll see. Maybe I'll do.
But
something
it's not
crazy
like I
and end up
picked.
at the bottom of the
It's not like
division
I
again.
picked Dallas to get 4 wins. Well, that was what
You
I
said-
picked.
What did you say? 8?
This year, 8-9. Didn't
Yeah,
I have
I
them
think
like 4-12 last year?
No, you said something like that, like 7-10 or 8-9 or something
Where's
like that.
Monique when you need her?
Yeah, she keeps receipts all day long. All right, kickoff for this next game is actually in about a good 10 minutes. I'm glad that they gave us a little buffer opening day here. Normally these Thursday night games are a little earlier, but kickoff is at 8:20. And shout out to the graphics department. Didn't even have to change the graphics. We're going to be using the same one from the AFC Championship game with the Chiefs and the Ravens. This should be an interesting one. All right, y'all. So tonight, the Baltimore Ravens are going to be playing at Kansas City. Shout out to the graphics department. Anyway, y'all know what it is.
Oh, Platino Power says the game got delayed. They put the game back to 8:40.
Even better. Not up
NFL
against
said,
that
"Hey,
clock.
Authentic in the Beard, season 6, guys. We're gonna have to push the game back a little bit."
Back just a little bit, We're running overboard here. But Baltimore Ravens finished 14-5 last year. including the playoffs and the NFC or AFC Championship. And the Kansas City Chiefs finished 15-6. Obviously, won a Super Bowl. This one is supposed to be at 8:20. It's going to be on NBC. It's not on Amazon Prime. I'm a little bit upset about that because you know that Prime Vision is super fire. I didn't see it
You
on
love
Amazon Prime to open up the year. Kind of interesting. The Chiefs lead the series between these two teams with a record of 8-5. Last meeting, the Chiefs beat the Ravens 17-10. That was on January 28th in the championship game against the Baltimore Ravens. This is a matchup of two quarterbacks that have won 2 MVPs, man.
Two black quarterbacks, too.
2 black quarterbacks at that, too, man. The game is definitely shifting. This matchup's going to be a tough one, I think, man. You know, Kansas City Chiefs have definitely made a couple of improvements on their rosters. No more Kadarius Toney over there. They did cut him. I heard that he's going over there to the Seattle Seahawks for a tryout. They're going to try to maybe bring him in. But I think that the Ravens are the more – I mean, they just brought in Derrick Henry. And I really think that they should have won the AFC Championship game as well if it wasn't for the mistake on the goal line from Zay Flowers with the fumble and the late interception from Lamar Jackson. It might have had the Ravens in the Super Bowl going up against the San Francisco 49ers. And we saw during the regular season, they dog-walked them in the regular season. I believe that was a game where they were missing CMC, though. They were missing one of their big pieces in that game when they dog-walked them. But for me, I'm looking at the Baltimore Ravens here. You know, this is you talk about microscopes being on quarterbacks, and it's still on Lamar Jackson. But one thing I will say about Lamar Jackson, the man got paid a massive bag. And there were fans out there that didn't want to bring Lamar Jackson to their team. I'm not going to point any fingers, but you guys know who you are. Atlanta Falcons were one of those teams, too, that were like, you know what? We're not even going to, just let this play out. We're going to tell the NFL world we're not interested in that guy, which is absolutely crazy. And then they rolled out Desmond Ridder out there. He was absolutely pathetic. But Lamar Jackson got paid that bag, and then you talk about showing up after getting paid the bag. He won the MVP after getting paid the bag. I'm going to take Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens in this one. Kansas City usually starts off slow at the beginning of the year. The last couple of years, they lost opening day last year to the Detroit Lions. I'm going to take the Baltimore Ravens in this one. I think it'll be a lot of points in this one. I'm going to go 31. It's got to be a one-score game, right? I'm going to go 31-27 in favor of the Baltimore Ravens.
Listen, you know I love Lamar Jackson. And you know I love the Baltimore Ravens. And I love the Derrick Henry signing. I think that's going to be huge. Yeah. Okay, I love that. I mean, listen,
back like that, man.
Yeah, you've been over some Derrick Henry numbers and some of these giant overreactions over the offseason that are standout numbers.
Top 10 for the last 5 years. Streak is still intact.
Yeah, so that they need that, and I think that's going to be huge for Lamar Jackson. I'm expecting a really, not a bounce back year, but a year more of maturation from Zay Flowers. I'm really looking forward to the maturation of Zay Flowers in this season. And can Rashad Bateman stay healthy? Can Mark Andrews stay healthy?
Yeah.
It's good that they have Isaiah Likely. I think Isaiah Likely is a hell of a football player. And once again, it's great to have a guy like that when your Mark Andrews is not around. Same thing.
Real quick, while you on Mark Andrews, would you consider trading Mark Andrews right now before he is out of his prime or is on a decline, being that you have a young player like Isaiah Likely, behind him?
I'll give you a scenario in which that would make sense to me. Say Lamar Jackson gets hurt and he's out for the year, and you're kind of struggling into like a 500 season-esque, right? Absolutely, I would make that move because I think you could get a contender that would pay up very good for him, and I think that would be the smart business decision. I have enough faith in Isaiah Likely where I think he would step in and give you close to Mark Andrews' production.
Yeah.
So I think that's an interesting scenario. But in this game, there's one thing I've learned. It's do not bet against Patrick Mahomes. He has become the do not bet against guy. I have bet against him before, and I have been burned. I love Xavier Worthy, okay? I'm telling you right now, I'll give you Xavier Worthy scores a touchdown in tonight's game. Not only does he score a touchdown, he scores the first touchdown in today's game. Xavier Worthy might even give you 100 yards in tonight's game. Xavier Worthy is going to have a breakout prime time. Hey, Buffalo, you shouldn't have traded the pick to Kansas City sort of game in front of the entire country, okay?
Yeah.
I'm going to take the Kansas City Chiefs in an absolutely fantastic way to start the football season sort of game. Kansas City Chiefs 29, Baltimore Ravens 24. I actually
So we
put
both got high
$5
scoring.
on that game, that exact correct score, 29-24. So we'll see how it goes.
To win how much?
I think it's like $2,000 or something like that.
There was another bet that I saw that it was a first touchdown bet, and man, the odds were crazy on it. I'm gonna remember it and I'll text it to you. So you going Xavier Worthy, maybe over 100 yards tonight.
Yep, and first touchdown.
I'm gonna take
At
the
least
under.
a touchdown, but I if you ask me for a first touchdown bet, long shot, I'm gonna give you Xavier Worthy.
I like it. I'm gonna go first touchdown. It's gonna be Pachenko.
Nobody says Pacheco like Authentic says Pachenko.
Shout out Platinum.
Platino Power 2 times with the $1.99 super chat. Says best TV show not on TV. 2 goats. Glad to have it back. We're glad to have you back.
My God, I saw him yesterday. I think that was either in I think it was in the stream with Fireside Giants. I think I saw Platinum Power over there, or it was in an Entertainer stream. I was rewatching Entertainer stream today, entering the season. But shout out to the homie, man. Platinum Power one time. Latinos in the building. You know what it is, fam. All right, Beard, any last thoughts? I mean, we got kickoff. Well, not in 3 minutes. Supposed to be in 3 minutes, but at least we can watch, a little commentary before the game and whatnot.
I mean, it's good to be back. It's good to be back. It's going to be a lot of fun. The game, Commanders, Giants, is early this season, week 2. Don't forget, Sunday, fantasy football, the parlay. And let me tell you, speaking of all these bets, it feels so good to not have to get in my car and drive across the line to make a bet now that we have in-home betting here in D.C. It feels great. So I'm excited. I think the NFL did a really good job of week 1 schedules. There's only so they have these survivor pools. We got to pick one team to win a game, but you can't pick them any rest of the games of the season. Mm-hmm. There was only one game to me that I felt confident in taking, and that was the Cincinnati Bengals over the New England Patriots. I think every other game is going to be a very close game, a hard game to choose. So I'm excited for that aspect of it because, especially when we play at 4 o'clock on Sunday, it gives me a lot of football to digest before my game. I'm just excited. We have Daniels at quarterback. It feels like a new era here in Washington, D.C. So, like I said, I am as excited as I have been in a very long time, but with tempered expectations. I don't want to shoot for the stars. I just want to see a competitive football team, a smart football team, and a tough football team. That's where I'm at going into this season.
I like it. You need a good like a good pickup truck for this season for these roadmaps one time. Oh. 2 things I want to bring attention to before we sign off real quick. Sebastian is in the building one time. He said, the Parlay Show has made me a back-to-back fantasy champ looking to three-peat this year. And I wanted to highlight this comment as well because Sebastian has been blessing us, chopping up the YouTube shorts and the reels that we've been posting lately. So big shout out to Sebastian, man, doing a fantastic job. Just volunteered to do that, man. And if this channel ever gets going into a direction where it is, financially making some big money, kind of like that super chat I just see down there right now, we're definitely going to be sending some of that towards Sebastian, man. So big shout out to him one time for holding us down, man. My Zoe one time in the building. And the GOAT one time, Lucas is in the building. Beard, it's on you.
I just want to give you a hug, Lucas. I just want to give you a hug. Big shout out to Lucas. Lucas has been with us since I was in Authentic's basement, in our basement in Hawaii Ave, to now when we're in our own homes. It's been a long journey, Lucas. I cannot thank you enough. You have always been a day one supporter of what we do here. He says, here's to the start of the season, fellas, with the $200 Australian super chat. I don't know what they call Australian dollars, but big shout out to Lucas. I can't thank you enough. This is what everything is about here at Authentic in the Beard. The family that we have built over the course of now our 6th season is something that you don't even really think of when you're doing this. And I think a lot of people out here, it can get really about the clicks and the views and the subs and stuff like that. And for us, it's always been about building this unit, right? And we've been able to do that, and we've been able to maintain that, and we've been able to do it and maintain it because of people like Lucas, people like Sebastian, all these people who are Cowboys fans come in here and hang out with us, like it has been an absolute journey that is a big part of both of our lives. And we really, 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 really appreciate it. Thank you very much to Lucas and to each and every one of you guys for rocking with us as always.
Yeah, couldn't have said that any better. I would have just removed the Cowboys part. Forget the Cowboys. Y'all ain't America's team. Y'all know what it is, man. Authentic in the beard, man. One time, man. Left side.
Strong side.
Yeah, man. I think the strong side. Maybe me and you are the left side, and the strong side is really the chat and the family one time because Lucas just held it down, man. But definitely a great way to start the season off, man. I'm glad we could do this with y'all. Glad to have the beard back, talking, NFC East ball. I've been kind of like constraining these NFC East thoughts to only talk about the New York Giants. And, it's really great to be back. And I had a really busy day today, and it's like coming back here to just talk ball with my best homie. It's not even work, man. It was a great show. Kind of upset that it's already over, man. But we got NFL football today. The offseason is over. I'm extremely excited about that, man. That's a great thing. And now we get to see what, all this hype and all the talk and all the projections and all that stuff is about, and see if our teams can actually compete this year, man. We've been on YouTube 5 going on now 6 years, and really there's only been one season from each of our teams, y'all in 2020 and the Giants in 2022, really where we kind of got to enjoy, like, I won't say enjoy the podcasting, but enjoy some victories while we're doing what we love here, podcasting. So, blessings to us, man. Hopefully the football gods are really looking down on us. But yeah, just a great show, man, and a great way to end it there. Shout out to Lucas one more time, man. That Lawrence Taylor signed helmet it's right there, sitting right there, man. So big shout out to you. Shout out to the gang, man. Shout out to all the family in the building who got to rock out with us today on this first episode of season 6 of Authentic in the Beard, man. What a vibe, man. So we'll be back on Sunday for the parlay in the morning. 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, then back on Monday for a Giant Overreaction. The following week, we're going to be at the Commanders game, and we're going to bring in, if everything goes well, Pat Leonard told me he wants to be a part of the Giant Overreaction the following Monday. I'm going to have the Beard up here with them as well. We'll see how we can chop up and talk about that game. But Beard, any last words before I give him the Combat Jack vibes?
Nope. Listen, great to be back. Thank you guys. I've been in the chats for as much of all the off-season content as I possibly could, and everybody always said what's up. And once again, big shout out to Authentic because he has really carried this channel through the off-season, and I'm super grateful for that. And it feels so good to be back, ladies and gentlemen. It is football. It is football. It is football.
It's great, man. It's great. It's like almost like a dream, bro. Like we're already here. Season already beginning, man. Shout out to y'all, though, man. Y'all know what it is, man. Keep raising that bar. Keep living those dreams because the universe flows in Technicolor and surround sound. Rest in peace to the podcast GOAT, Combat Jack. And that's a wrap, y'all. We will catch y'all on the next episode. The Beard, I'll get the outro one time. Y'all know what it is. Y'all be good. Peace.